Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 105, Countdown to Christmas. So we are through Thanksgiving and we are now in that crazy time of year when things start to get a little bit insane. I don't know. Maybe it's just for me. It always seems like it's just that time of year when you're kind of antsy and there's some excitement in the air because Christmas is around the corner and the kids are getting excited and they're so ready for like a longer vacation. You had a kind of a tease at Thanksgiving and now it is time for the fun. I know that this is often a time that teachers sometimes will be assigned or be given the choice of doing their observation during this time of year. And I'm always thinking, I don't want to do my observation during December. Like, I think that's crazy. And yes, I do have a little bit of a different philosophy when it comes to observations than most people do. And I feel like I know I want them to see how I teach regularly, but I also think that it's important to look at it just like you might look at company over to your house. Like, you normally live probably pretty, clean, depending on your personality. I like to have things orderly and cleaned up. But sometimes I get a little lazy, I'm going to admit, and dishes are in the sink, not very often, but sometimes. And I would be mortified if company came over, like my mom or my friend came over out of the blue and I had something not organized. In fact, that happened to me recently. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have everything picked up, and it was making me crazy. So I was fine with them stopping by, but I felt like completely out of sorts because when someone's coming over, I clean my house or I straighten it up. I want it to look, it's very best at its best potential. And that's how I feel about observations. Like, it's kind of like having company over. Yes, I want them to see how I normally live. However, when they come over, I put things in the closet. So just something to think about. If you're going to do your observation in December, be ready to put your best foot forward. And today we're going to talk all about some things that you could be doing that is going to keep kids learning, but also have a little bit of fun for Christmas. Hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so the countdown is on. Actually, when this podcast comes out, we'll only have probably, like 12 more days till Christmas? 12 more days till Christmas vacation, I should say. I know that most people will end at least their winter term or their break or whatever, they will end on probably, I'm going to guess, December 18th. Yeah. And so that will be, and then hopefully you will have like a few days before Christmas. That's always nice when that happens, I think. I always get a little bit stressed out when it pushes it right to like just maybe 1 or 2 days before Christmas. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have all my everything done. But I actually do have everything done this year. I even have I'm getting my Christmas tree today. So I'm excited about that. I took everything down on Thanksgiving. I took all the Thanksgiving like fall stuff down and I put up Christmas. I went and had Thanksgiving dinner at a friend's, and then I came home and it was like time for Christmas. So I'm ready. I'm actually ready. All my Christmas presents are done. I have one little thing left to get my nephew and then I'm all set. So I'm excited. So in school, when we're counting down to Christmas, like I said in the beginning of this episode, is that the kids are like, oh my goodness, they're bouncing off the wall sometimes. So when we do observations during this time, I'm always like, no, I think we can save that. Let's save that for January when they're just a little bit comatose. And then we can, I don't know if there's ever a perfect time because you kind of want to go over procedures and routines when they get back, just in case they forgot over that little bit of a break. So today we're going to talk about counting down to Christmas and things that we can do in order to continue to keep learning and motivating kids to be thinking and discovering while they are also enjoying themselves and having fun. I like to make this a little bit of a fun time as well. And so it feels a little bit more lively in the classroom and like we have something to look forward to. And especially after such a difficult year, I think it's important. I think it's important for kids, for little kids especially, for all kids. I think it's important for all of us actually. So that's just something to keep in mind. I do have a really fun activity that does the 12 days before Christmas vacation, and it's a countdown to Christmas. I'll link to it in my store on TPT, and that's what it's called, the countdown to Christmas. And it is a really fun lap book. And I think lap books are such a great way for kids to create while also like having it feel like project based, and it's like a self-contained unit of study. It's very creative. It encourages writing and drawing and thinking. I love to use lap books like portfolios. I think they're great for sharing with families. And I think that sometimes they are motivating for reluctant learners. And I think they're so fun. So this is a lap book. You don't have to use a folder. You could actually use like a big piece of construction paper and then fold it to where you had where it looked like two flaps open for a book, kind of like a book. Like, let me think how I can explain it. It's hard to explain sometimes when you're on a podcast and you don't have the video. So if you have the paper in front of you and you folded into the middle, you folded the right into the middle and the left into the middle, so that way it would look like a stage when it opened up. There we go. That might explain it. So you'd have like two like curtains. It would be like, two sides of the stage, and you'd open up, and there would be your whole entire project inside. So on the flaps on the outside, you can also do some fun activities as well. So I want to just explain a little bit how you might put this together and how you might use it and some of the activities. And that way, if you don't grab the product, that you could still do this on your own. You can always make lap books for so many different things. Like you can do, I actually have a lap book for Christmas around the world, which is really fun. And we study all different countries. And actually, I'm going to link to the episode where I talk about this, where I talk about Christmases around the world. Let me see, which one is that? It is episode 57, Christmas Around the World in the Classroom. So I'll link to that as well. And I talk about how you put that lap book together and the countries that we talk about. And it's a really fun thing to do at Christmas. But that's just one. But you could do that yourself. You could have like one, the first tab could be like, like a passport, and like I'm going to get my kids ready for traveling. And then the other one can be like a place to house photos. And then when you open it up on each part, like in the middle, but also on the right and on the left, you could have different countries. They could put down facts from different countries, and I think that would be really fun. You could also do this as like a close reading activity where you are talking about, maybe on the front of the book, you're doing like a visualization. The front of your lap book, like one side could be a visualization of a part of the story that was very captivating or changed when it was something that the character changed through that event. You could put that on one side, and then maybe on the other side, they could talk about, their like review of the book. Did they like it? How did they feel about it? Why did they like it or not like it? Then in the center, maybe you could do like a retelling, a beginning, middle, and end, and they could talk about, events in the story that occurred in the beginning, and then in the middle of the story, and then at the end of the story. And then on the other side, maybe you could do a perspective, like from whose perspective was the story told, and what would it look like if it was told from a different character's perspective. So there's just a variety. You could do a variety of standards in a lap book, and then that could be like, maybe a cumulative or summative assessment, and you could use that for students to be able to show that to others or show that to their parents, or you could even, that could be like a final product or project that they do in order to determine how they are working on a variety of standards. So that's an idea that you could do with a lap book. And so I think that would be fun. So what I'm talking about is, like I said, a countdown for Christmas. And what you do is you get the folder and you fold it like we talked about, and then you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a stapler. You're probably going to need some glue. markers or crayons. You want to have, I like to have those little brads, those little gold brads, so that you can do fan books or you can do flip books, and they can be, like flipped with the little brads. You could also do a stapler. It doesn't have to be the brad. I don't know why I like doing the brads for some reason. And then any kind of embellishments that they can be decorative, like buttons or ribbons or stamps or stickers or things like that. Obviously, you need a stapler, and a single hole punch sometimes really helps. So those are some materials that you want to have in mind. And you start off by laying the folder flat, and you fold it over, and then you really make sure it's creased firmly. It's kind of like a shutter. That's what I was thinking of, a shutter. I said a stage. I think that works too, but it could be like a shutter. And then you kind of add each area as you go, which I think is fun. In the countdown to Christmas, it has like a giant elf head that you can print out, and then kids can cut it out and they can put it at the top of their lap book. And then the feet, so they have these giant legs with feet, almost looks like the Wicked Witch of the West, except for it's an elf's feet and not the ruby slippers, and that goes at the bottom. And so then when you close the lap book, it's got that head and the feet on the bottom. It looks so cute, and I have a picture of it, and you can see what that looks like. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, so if you're on my website, you'll be able to see it. But if you're listening to this from Apple, you might want to hop over to episode 105 at trinadeveryteachingandlearning.com, One Tired Teacher, and then you can kind of see some pictures. But on the front, I always like to have a little cover, and it's like the 12 days of Christmas. And then it has a little note, and this is something that you could write yourself. You could write a note to your students, and you could act like maybe you were like a little elf or Santa or something like that. And that could be one side of your lap book, and maybe the other side you might want to have like maybe they do their wish list on one side of the lap book. But this is what I have on my lap book that you can grab. It's Dear Boys and Girls, Ethan the Elf coming at you from the North Pole. I hope you are getting excited for Christmas. I know we sure are. Santa has us working overtime to be certain you get some great stuff this Christmas. Speaking of Santa, he wants to remind you to be on your best behavior for these last few days until the big night. He still has a lot of us elves out on the lookout. Our naughty and nice list turned digital a few years ago, so it is super easy to update the list. That's good news and bad. Basically, it just means that you still have time to be and stay on the nice list. So make choices while learning and having fun. See you soon. Oh, make good choices. See you soon. Love, Ethan the Elf. All right, so that's at the beginning. So if you want to put something like that, then you definitely can. And then what I thought was really fun, like I ended up doing these little presents, and you could also do this without the product. You could, create little squares, and this would be easy enough to do in like a paper cutter. I think that would be the easiest. And then you have the kids glue them on in like, an order 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12. So, and then you can make them like a little flap, like they glue the top, but they can lift it up so that there's something underneath. And then it was like an advent calendar. Have you ever had an advent calendar? I used to love those when I was a kid. We had this advent calendar. I have no idea where it is. It was like a winter scene. And so each day you would open up one of the little windows, and you'd, have a little Christmas picture inside, or you would see like inside of a little cottage, and they would be by the fire, or there would be a Christmas tree or a present or something like that. They were so cute. Now people want things with them, and you can do that too. Like they have those advent calendars at like Walmart they're like candy inside. So every day you get a piece of candy or some kind of treasure. I think advent calendars are so fun. So this is a type of advent calendar. Like some of the activities that you could put underneath the little like day 1 is put your lap book together and decorate the cover. That's an easy one. That's easy enough because you're already doing that. That's day 1. And day 2 is write a letter to Santa. Day 3, decorate your Christmas tree with subtraction. So, and some of these things have activities. So like that can be that can be actually in the center of the lap book, and then you could do your days 1 through 6 on the left, and then 7 through 12 on the right. And so that's where they're lifting up the flap, and then in the center they can keep all of their materials that go with some of these things. Like there is a Christmas tree with subtraction, and that can be something that they can do as well. Like that can be included. And then another fun idea is like read your letter from Ralph Reindeer and create illustrations to match the text. So it's still like learning activities, but it's activities that kids get like okay, we're on day 4. We're on we're counting down. We're on day 4, so let's go. Let's see what's today, and then we're on day 5, and we're on day 6, and then we're on day 7, and then they just like they get excited because there's just really some really fun things to do. One of them is to decorate, a Santa with addition. One of them is to read about a common Christmas symbol and answer questions. And one of my favorites is to decorate a Christmas sweater by doing this your own code with addition and or subtraction. I think that's really fun too. So just and then there's some favorite Christmas books that are in there. Like one of the days is listen to the Polar Express and answer questions about the story, which is fun because I love reading the Polar Express. And then my very favorite one is day 12, which is listen to 'Twas the Night Before Christmas and write an opinion piece. I cannot believe how many students have not heard of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I felt kind of heartbroken. I read them 'Twas the Night Before Thanksgiving, and I had them like put their hand on in your head if you have ever heard of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, because it's based on that. And I was like half the classes, and I read to like, I don't know, 5 classes before Thanksgiving break. That 'Twas the night before Thanksgiving. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to come back. We're going to have to read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Can't not read that. Have to have heard that in your lifetime. In fact, I might do that one when we first go back, just to make sure that they get, that they've heard it. Because that's a family tradition in my house. I still do it. My kids are 20 and 16. And even last year, we huddled up together and I read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas on Christmas Eve. I've read it to them every single Christmas their whole lives. And the one Christmas where we were not together, they were with their dad. I recorded it and sent it to them, which was like very emotional. It was like the first Christmas we weren't together. I have had them with me Christmas Eve ever since then. Thankfully, because like that is like a tradition. It's a special night that's one thing that we do together and that they still want to do, which I hope they always want to do that. Anyway, so that's an idea to count down Christmas. Like that makes it fun. There's another thing that other ideas that you might have is you might put like some of those activities on like a popsicle stick, and you put them in a big jar, and then you're pulling out an activity every single day and you're counting down, as the sticks go down, that's how many more days you've got left until it's Christmas vacation. That might be an idea. And always reading like those, fun Christmas stories makes it really fun too. I have another really fun makerspace activity because I've been talking so much about makerspace, which I'm excited to talk some more about that. I've been working on my Mastering Makerspace course. I can't wait to share it with you all. And launching a makerspace in your classroom or learning environment. And I am just in love with makerspace, and I love the creativity of it and the outside of the box. I was listening to a podcast myself, and they were talking about how they're like, I just couldn't get into makerspace. I just didn't understand the point. They're like, what is the point? And I'm like, what is the point? I mean, they did figure it out. Like they were like, oh, we have to sometimes question like the traditional type of setting. We have to question it because there's not going to be room for everyone if we don't allow there to be some kind of different way of thinking. And I think that's the part that I love so much, that it's such a celebration of diversity, and it's another way of thinking that we don't often see in the classroom, and that's why it's so powerful to me. But I did do a Christmas makerspace. I have 2 Christmas makerspaces in my shop on TPT, and one of them was to Christmas Trolls by Jan Brett, and that's such a good Christmas story. And the character has an issue with the trolls keep taking things from their house and under their tree and their ornaments and things like that. And they catch them, and they realize that these trolls have never had the opportunity to feel the joy of giving. And so they have to they try to do something special to show the joy of giving, and also to teach them that, stealing is not the right thing to do. And so I did a makerspace on that, and the kids have to come up with a solution to the problem. And the problem is that the trolls keep taking things, and they can come up with anything of it. That's the thing I love about like STEM or makerspace, is that it's very open ended. So we're letting kids really think. Like they might think the problem comes from the trolls and how they're going to get the stolen goods to their into their treehouse, and so they might create some type of pulley or system like that, especially if you're talking about like force and motion or even simple machines. That would be a great way to tie some science in. And or they might think a solution to the problem is the main girl. And I can't remember if it's Treva, because there's 2 troll ones, and I do have a compare and contrast, and I love that. But I can't remember if Treva is the main character in Christmas Trolls. So it might not be. So whatever the girl's name is, it's not coming to me. She's having the problem. Like things keep missing, and so she has to figure out how to help teach these trolls the gift of giving. And so I think coming up with a solution to that might be really creative and really take some critical thinking. I think that could be really, really cool. So that's an idea with Trouble with Trolls. And then another makerspace I have is with the Grumpy Santa, which is such a funny book about Santa being so grumpy. He's so grumpy with all these different things. And you're kind of having to figure out what you could do to solve Grumpy Santa's problem of being grumpy. Like, how can we help Santa not be grumpy? And the kids come up with all kinds of really cute solutions to this. There's not a very good tie into science in this aspect, so I definitely would not call this STEM. I feel like that's more of a craft, but it certainly has some thinking deeper about text, and that's always important. So those are just some things to keep in mind as you count down to Christmas. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what you can do for these next couple of weeks, because it's going to feel like eternity. Let's be honest. It's going to feel like a long time. Although by the time this podcast comes out, you will only have like 12 more days till Christmas. So I'll link to those items in the show notes, and you can grab those if you need them. And if not, then I hope you find something that is really meaningful and special for your kids, keeps them learning and having fun at the same time. One last thing that I do love, and that is to make science into a holiday event. I do have a fun unit called Holidays Matter, which is also in my shop on TPT. And I did talk about that in an episode on One Tired Teacher. What episode was that? Hands-on Christmas Science. It's episode 56. So if you want to grab that or listen into that will talk a lot about making Christmas science very hands-on. And I have there's 4 experiments in that Holidays Matter. And there's also some close reading, and there's vocabulary, and that will definitely get you through at least a week, if not longer. Maybe I would say a little bit longer. I wouldn't do an experiment every single day. So I would say, maybe 2 weeks. So that'll get you through some time with some really good science and also informational text. So I'll link to that. But I have a freebie that I'm going to give away with that. And it's Reindeer's Experiment with Matter. And so I'm going to drop that in the show notes. So that's a freebie that you can grab, and it will give you all the things that you need and how to prep it, and it will give you the activity, and then you can do the little experiment. So if you're talking at all about the states of matter, then this would be something that you might want to grab. It's really fun and it's free. So I'll link to it in the show notes. And speaking of freebies, I'm also going to drop in there my Makerspace jobs. If you are giving Makerspace a try and you're finding that you need some structure, which let me tell you, you need a little bit of structure or you're going to go crazy. Giving kids jobs is really important, and it really helps a lot. So I have a Makerspace job poster freebie that I'll also link in the show notes. Until next time, this One Tired Teacher is ready for some Christmas cookies. Sweet dreams and sleep tight.